Thank you so much for joining us today. It is my pleasure to have Abhay Gupta, founder and CEO of Bidgely and a platinum sponsor of Parks Associates Smart Energy Summit, join us today. My name is Elizabeth Parks, and I'm the president of Parks Associates, a market research and consulting company that also hosts the Smart Energy Summit. So, thank you so much, Abhay, for your time and your support of our upcoming event. I'd like to go ahead and just jump right in. The research and market continues to emphasize the growing demand for clean energy solutions. And so, interested in how Bidgely is playing into the net zero emissions goal. And maybe you can just give us a brief background of some of the latest things you all are working on.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth. We are. Thanks for inviting us here. As you know, Bidgely is playing a premium role in bringing analytics in the energy industry and use of analytics in everyday decisions. And as we learn, net zero is becoming it's a big agenda for the new government, the whole climate program as well. So we are making a difference in the industry by helping people make and utilities make very important decisions which are data driven. We are extracting information to help quantify people what is the benefit of when they buy an EV, who is buying an EV, when are they charging, how does their charging affect on the peak usage, how does it affect on the climate, the effect of carbon scores, etc. When should people charge their cars? People who have solar, what options do they have in terms of creating the maximum impact, positive impact on the environment? Ultimately, we bring the personalization into the energy industry. The energy industry is something has something missing, which is as a consumer, I get my energy bill, but I have no clue what and how is happening behind that bill. So we are bringing the personalization in the industry by helping people understand the impact of their actions, and where is their money going and what they should be doing based on their energy, by their rate plan, their appliances, etc.
That's great, and certainly see some of that in our research that the ability to lower cost on energy bills and understand that data behind these programs is helping drive further adoption of new programs. And also, just have an interesting data point out of the field showing that 42% of households are highly likely to choose a provider who offers energy from renewables like solar and electric vehicles over traditional energy sources. So certainly seeing that growing demand. Given the past year with COVID-19 and shifts in the consumer market, can you share some of the specific trends that you all are seeing take shape, and maybe focus in on some of the changes that you all are noting?
Absolutely. We can start with the industry trends. Of course, the one of the industry trend we see is more and more adoption of smart meters. I think the smart meter adoption, in my opinion or knowledge, has already crossed the 50% mark. So we are beyond the majority level, and you're seeing that adoption. Now, of course, with the smart meters comes a lot of data. So the second trend we are seeing is many utilities are hiring the new digital officer, chief data officers who are figuring out what do I do with the data. So new IT department initiatives are being set up by large utilities to say how do we do the digital transformation, because now we have deployed the smart meters and we have the data. So applying artificial intelligence and having big data is something new to utilities, and we see a very big investment by utilities after the hardware is deployed into the software stack on both big data and analytics AI engines. The trends on the consumer side that we see are smart home trends. Of course, there's more and more adoption of the devices like smart thermostats from Ecobee and Google Nest, and smart devices like Alexa. I mean, now Alexa is embedded in many different devices. So smart home adoption, although it's skewed in certain type of appliances like thermostats and speakers, much more than traditional appliances, but that adoption is increasing. And the other trend, of course, we see is EVs, which is everybody understands and knows. The adoption of electric vehicle is just at some point, I think few years back it was like, if, at this point the question is how fast, right? So With comes EVs, comes the trends like the stress on the grid. So almost every single utility in the country is looking at saying, as the penetration of EV increases, what is my plan to manage my grid? Because you have to manage when people charge their electric vehicle. So on one side, there is positive electrification, more revenue, more kWh. But the second side, there is a challenge of managing when to charge the cars, because it can create the stress on the grid because of the demand charges. So those are the trends that we see in the industry for now.
Yeah, that's great. And maybe just to go a little bit further there, overall, we still see consumers reporting relatively low familiarity with some of the new programs that utilities are rolling out. Everything from, the rebates, the demand response programs. And so, can you maybe share a little bit about how your technology is helping utilities, really sort of prove that value proposition to consumers, and where you feel like that impact is going to be the largest for the utility player?
Right. So it's a great question. See, unfortunately, utilities, uh, definitely in the regulated world, like in North America, never had the focus on consumers for a long time, and only over the last 4 or 5 years, that focus has come into place. So one of the problems is that consumers don't have the mind share, or rather, utilities don't have the mind share of the consumers. Also, the other problem is most utilities have not yet applied the personalization, which means they send the same message to all of the millions of their customers in same insert and bill insert and same email. So consumers, when they find the communication from utilities to be non-personalized, they start ignoring it. And for example, I bought my electric vehicle. I got to know from a friend of mine that I have $700 sitting somewhere at PG&E, which I could claim, but they didn't come out to me saying, here is $700 for your EV. So the personalization aspect of what we do for utilities is help them understand what's happening in the house, who has EV, who is charging the EV in the daytime, who has very old heating system which is might be breaking down, who has high AC load, high inefficiency. So they can go a lot more personalized. Don't offer all the programs to all the customers. It's too much noise in my inbox, right? Give me very specific offers which apply to me, and make it clear, so I am tempted to go jump into those programs. I think the solution is very, very simple. Make me the offer based on my personalized information, and tell me the ROI, and I'm all here to adopt the programs. So what we do is we bring to utilities that personalization layer using analytics running over their meter data.
Well, that's great, and certainly we understand from our consumer research that that experience is really critical to the adoption of these products. And like many things, when consumers go out and buy something and then really find value, they continue to kind of grow that family of products in their homes. So, smart home device owners, they are the ones buying more. And we certainly see that as a key segment, the already owning smart home devices continuing to expand further. So let's talk a little bit about any things coming in the next 6, 9, or 12 months. We're still in a really uncertain market. And certainly for the utility side, there's a lot of implications with COVID and, even helping consumers out given the situation some are in, helping with bills and different things there. But can you share what you think the next phase in the energy space looks like for maybe this year and then maybe 3 or 5 years out, if you can go that far?
Sure, sure. So I think, like we touched before, the see adoption of smart devices in the home, and you can think of some smart thermostats as well as electric vehicles. They both allow utilities to have assets in the field which can be used to control when people are using electricity. And for example, I could be pre-cooling my house, I could be charging my car in the night. So these the most important thing is, how do utilities gain consumer mindshare so consumers allow utilities to interact with their devices? How would consumers bring their devices into the utilities ecosystem to say, I'm happy to participate in your ecosystem because it makes sense, right? So most important thing for the next few years that we are seeing, and which is picking up very well, is we do work on load disaggregation, and based on load disaggregation we do the personalized offers, that hyper personalization for every household, no home left behind, is important. And we are seeing the trend that over the next 2 years, and we'll talk about 1 to 2 years, the adoption of personalization is happening very fast. Every single call it RFP or requirement from utility that we see, they are very well aware, and they're asking for personalization for the consumers. Now, so that's the part which we are excited about, how the personalization is being adopted by the utilities. In the bigger picture, and by the way, that personalization allows them to figure out which house to offer what kind of programs, right? Like shift the load to EV, and you have $20 a month sitting for you if you just follow the advice. In the bigger, longer scale, let's say 5 year scale, one of the things that we plan to contribute heavily is to have a concept of eco score or a carbon score. Just like credit score, we all understand what credit score is, and that credit score is something we maintain because we know if I have a good credit score, then I get all the benefits of a lower mortgage rate or loan or a credit card, right? Uh, in the next 5 years, we see the concept of consumers looking at saying, "What is my carbon footprint? Why should I participate in these things?" Consumers need motivation, and in some ways consumers are not always driven by the money aspect only. In fact, like you mentioned, right, I mean, the next, you said 42% of the customers are willing to participate in renewable programs, and they would prefer a supplier who would provide renewables. You can see that the new generation, the next generation, is driven by sometimes the right thing to do or the comfort, right? um, DoorDash, ordering food through DoorDash costs you 30% more money. It's not just their delivery fee. There's extra fee for the each menu item. But people do that because it's comfort, right? Similarly, for renewables, people are ready to spend more money because it's the right thing to do. We think the motivation has to be created for consumers in terms of knowledge to say, what is my footprint on the environment? And if I were to do this action, or buy an EV, or buy a smart thermostat, or shift my load, or buy a battery, or put my asset up for be trading in the market, what is the impact I'm creating on environment? That motivation and quantification for us is something that will drive the mass scale, the 40-50% of the middle stack consumer to take action. And we are taking the charter of motivating consumers with quantified carbon impact information over the coming years.
Well, that's great. And it's amazing the role that Bidgely is playing in helping the utilities really become, part of the consumer experience. I think for a long time, people would probably not think much of their utility. They don't even think about their electricity, and the engagement aspect that you're helping create through the metrics and data that you're able to share creates a really additional value personally, and then obviously that can spread through the whole globe, really. So, it's amazing how quickly this time can go by. But I want to thank you for your insights. Thank you for your participation at Smart Energy Summit. I certainly look forward to talking with you again. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Pleasure to be here.